In this video, I'm going to give you what I think is a good sequence of topics for Level 3. Level 1 and Level 2 broke down nicely by section. There were 10 sections in Level 1 and 10 sections in Level 2. And there are sections in Level 3, but some of them only have one reading, some only have two readings. They're messy. I don't like the flow of them. I think they're set up very nicely by book. That if you focus on one book and then the next book, I think that works out a lot better. So I have it in terms of the sequence that I think makes sense. Book 4, Book 5, Book 2, Book 3, 6, and then 1. 1 is ethics. You know if you've been with me through Level 1 and Level 2, you know what I say about ethics is it really is a short-term memory thing. It's not as intuitive as perhaps fixed income or equity valuation is. I seem to think that getting that kind of stuff in your mind as close to the exam as possible makes a lot of sense. Get it into short-term memory. There are more readings at ethics this year than there were last year. There's 2 new readings, but you know what? They're short. I think one of them is like 15 pages. The other one is like 8 or 9 pages. They're very short. They're very straightforward. They read like a story as opposed to a list of facts. So there's not a lot of extra stuff that's been added there. Book 4, Fixed Income and Equity. Equity is expanded this year. It used to be 1 reading. Now it's 4. So instead of 5 readings in Book 4, you have 8 readings in Book 4. The equity readings are quite easy to get through. In fact, I'm surprised at how light they are in their level of challenge. The last reading is probably the most challenging one, and it's not that bad. The fixed income is considered the more challenging of all of the sections that you'll go through, is the fixed income portfolio management one. I would start at Book 4. The reason I would start at Book 4 is because some of the things they talk about at Book 2 and Book 3 will make a lot more sense if you already have a picture in your head of what's going on at Book 4. Now, Book 4 does not require you to know anything from Book 2 or Book 3 to understand what's going on with Book 4. That's why I say let's start there. Then I would go on to Book 5. Here you're looking at alternative investment portfolio management. You're looking at risk management and derivatives. There are 5 readings there. These readings on derivatives, not difficult at all. It's about the application of derivatives, not the valuation. That's done with. Now we're just using them. How do we actually use them in our portfolio to change exposures or to gain exposures? So it's kind of fun. Here's a nice thing though. Book 4 and Book 5 are fun. They're fun readings. They're not as intensive as Level 2 valuation in terms of fixed income and derivatives. But they're fun to work with to see how they come together in a portfolio. They're actually quite enjoyable. Book 2, the long book, 9 readings. Behavioral finance, individual and institutional portfolios, portfolio management in terms of the investor policy statement. If I had to find a very frustrating and boring book, it would be Book 2. It is long and it is at times quite boring. And then it's followed by Book 3, Economics, Asset Allocation. There's only 6 readings there. 1 has been dropped off. Book 2 and 3, heavily tested on the AM session. The AM session, remember now, gives you a question on a blank sheet of paper. You got to write. So I've got plenty of videos on the site that show you how to answer particular questions using structured response. But Book 2 and 3, heavy AM content. Book 4 and 5, heavy PM content. And when I say heavy PM, that means if there's a fixed income or an equity question, it's more likely than not to be a PM question, which is a vignette. You've seen that at Level 2. And if there is a Book 2 or Book 3 question, it's more likely to be a structured response question. In fact, if we look at the structured response questions from the previous years, 50% of the AM exam was Book 2 alone. 50% for the last 3 years now, right around the 50% mark of the AM exam has been just Book 2. So Book 4, Book 5, then hit Book 2. You'll be there the longest. And it's where I have the most content, by the way, because it does have the heavy AM testing. Then Book 3, then move on to Book 6. There's only 3 readings here. It's almost like an afterthought in here. Trading and rebalancing and performance evaluation. When I say an afterthought, don't take that literally and say, oh, I can ignore it. It just seems like it's kind of out of place. They could have put trading and rebalancing, I think, well within Book 4. It makes sense to be there. Performance evaluation. I think they probably could have put into book 4 as well. And then, of course, you have the presentation standards, the performance presentation standards, GIPS, which is, it's not a page turner, my friends. It is not a page turner. And then finally, you have ethics at the very end. So that is my recommended sequence, is 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, 1. By the time you get to 2 and you're going through 2, you'll be thankful you've done 4 and 5, because they make a lot of references to things that you are going to cover in 4 and 5, that if you already have that in your mind, suddenly it's like, okay, I don't have to fight over this exhibit or this blue box example, because I already know what that means. I don't have to try to figure out what they're saying here. I know what it means. And yeah, that's my recommendation.